Since 2002, we have had 10 Spider-Man movies in between competing studios Sony and Marvel, and any fan worth their salt has noticed that not only are these movies incredible, but they have somewhat defined the feats of how good superhero movies can be. Now, I'm not a diehard Spider-Man fan. I was more of a Doctor Strange kind of boy, but I did grow up watching the Spider-Man movies as well. When Into the Spider-Verse came out in 2018, it was another triumph, showing that even in the animated format, Spider-Man can still take its cinematic feats even higher. With the multiverse concept by its side, we are introduced to endless iterations of our favorite characters, villains, alternative Spider people, and their own stories of grief and loss and how they willingly picked up the hero's gauntlet for us.
Miles, the hardest thing about this job is you can't always save everybody.
The newest triumph was Across the Spider-Verse, following the story of Miles Morales as he prepares to battle the multiversal threat he unleashed, issues relating to the origin of his powers, and being told about the Spider-Verse. Now, was Across the Spider-Verse a bad movie? Of course not, but that's not what I'm going to talk about. None of these movies are bad. Some of them became memes and maybe parts within them were bad.
Peter.
But all of them have defined cinema in some capacity.
Stop Spider-Man!
And Spider-Man to this day is one of the most beloved and defining collections of superhero movies ever. In the latest film, Across the Spider-Verse, something happened, however.
What's this?
This is everything.
Something so radical that it has now changed everything we knew about all the Spider-Men who have come before and might come after.
And these nodes where the lines converge?
They are the canon. Chapters that are a part of every Spider story, every time. Some good, some bad, some very bad.
I want to explain why in the latest movie, the introduction of the canon events mythology by Miguel O'Hara and what it means for Miles and the Spider-Verse takes away the free will, the stakes, and the heart of why Spider-Man stories were so meaningful in the first place. Not just for the audience, but for the spiders themselves. And because I think canon events ruins what made Spider-Man special for us and the characters, from this I will give my predictions for why, by the end of the next installment in the trilogy, they will be broken.
Isn't that right, Peter? Yeah. You break enough canon, save enough captains, and we could lose everything.
Now, back to the Spider-Man fans, any of them could also tell you with some consensus that the best costume was perhaps Andrew Garfield's, the best villain was the Green Goblin, and the best Peter Parker was probably Tobey Maguire. The single biggest theme that has connected all previous Spider-Man movies has been the lesson of responsibility and the motivation of loss. I don't need to say it, so I won't. It's been done to death.
With great power comes
Don't
great...
you dare finish that sentence. Don't do it. I'm sick of it.
Spider-Man's whole arc has always involved accepting that having powers comes hand in hand with having the responsibility to use them. Without the responsibility, those powers don't have meaning, and without the powers, he isn't responsible. These themes aren't exclusive to Spider-Man, obviously. Accepting responsibility is something heroes just do in one way or another. How else do they understand what role they must play in protecting others? And how else do they use those gifts as tools and not toys? Now, it's not all the same, otherwise it would be boring. Other heroes usually have a different spin on how they come to this conclusion. Like Steve Rogers. He already had the responsibility and perspective of knowing the value of doing good, even with nothing. So when given power, there wasn't even a moment where he abused it. Or Tony Stark. He was blind to the suffering and injustice in the world by his ego and self-image. Only after going through that suffering does he feel responsible to do something about it now that he understands the real power his wealth and knowledge gives him. Another thing that is so innate for our beloved heroes is loss, grief, and anguish. Is there even a superhero? Actually, let me check. Okay, so I can't seem to find a superhero movie where someone the hero knows doesn't die or isn't dead. If you find one, let me know. The part in the story where the hero loses someone is so wildly immovable. It was almost like it was going to happen regardless. And clearly, it's not like we're rooting for their significant others to die. We just know in the back of our minds that maybe part of the story is them losing someone. Because grief is such a universal language, it's something we can all relate to. And when discussing its part to play in superheroes, the reason it's so compelling to the audience is because with it, we go from seeing this person as other or inhuman or even alien to someone who has human emotions, someone who suffers the way we suffer. And nothing makes us more relatable than our emotions. Nothing is more human. So because most heroes experience grief, the lesson is usually some flavor of making sure it never happens again, no matter how much it hurts. And mind you, it's never just one death. Well, at least not for Spider-Man. Spider-Man famously loses multiple people over his life. Looking specifically at Gwen Stacy's death in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Peter went out of his way to try and limit his exposure to her, so that an exact situation like this wouldn't happen, that she would be killed, because a villain figured out his secret identity.
Peter.
Even knowing the risk, it got to a point where it was too late, and I think with each second that passed here, Gwen and Peter knew just how much danger she was in. Why this scene in particular made me cry when I first watched it was not only how close Peter was to saving her, talking seconds sooner here, but just how desperate and fast he tried. He gave everything, did everything he could. Even before that, trying to stay away from her was doing his part, and it still was not enough. If he had reached seconds sooner or started falling a moment earlier, she could have been saved. And even though he wails in his grief for her, he doesn't stop being Spider-Man for her sake. He continues to be Spider-Man for her sake, showing how much this scene means to us and him. And nothing takes away the pain these characters feel in these moments. No one else is there, no one else is crying. It is completely unique to them. After losing these losses, the weight of responsibility is felt, and it cannot be changed. Now, Spider-Man's hero arc leans heavily into both these themes, as we have discussed, to the point all of them hear the famous line from the exact person they couldn't save.
With great power.
There must also come great
Responsibility.
And this has always been the spice, right? The hallmark of what made Spider-Man movies connect so easily with so many people in its time of release. Why it connected to me? And yeah, this is powerful stuff in combination with Spider-Man just being a really cool superhero. Everything about him is iconic. So what changed? In Across the Spider-Verse, we see the continuation of the story of Miles Morales. Since his last film, he has grown up quite a bit, but is still running around trying to balance issues of family, school, and his own responsibilities as his own universe's Spider-Man. Reconnecting with Spider-Gwen from the last film, he accidentally unleashes the Spot. Well, more like he disrespects an upcoming villain so much he goes from goofy silhouette to eldritch nightmare in one scene.
I am the Spot. We meet again, Spider-Man. Oh, that's funny to you? Of course not.
He wanted to fix his mistake, but accidentally unleashed an unprecedented evil onto the multiverse, making it everyone's problem now. Halfway into the movie, after the Spot escapes, leaving Miles, Gwen, and that universe's Spider-Man Pavitra alone, a bridge in the city gets damaged, and they have to work together to save the people before it collapses. Because this is Pavitra's dimension, during the chaos, Pavitra notices his girlfriend and her dad, both on the bridge, and wanted to save them. With teamwork, Miles helps Pavitra walk out unscared with his girlfriend and her dad alive and well. Curiously, at the exact same time, a massive cavity appears at the bottom of the city, resembling a black hole. After this, Miles is taken to Dimension 928, the base of operations for the Spider Society, which is basically an interdimensional spider police task force that helps oversee dangers to the multiverse. On top of the hundreds of thousands of other spider people he has never met, he learns about the Spider-Verse.
And this here, this is all of us. All of our lives woven together in a beautiful web of life and destiny.
The Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse? Oh, that's stupid. It's called the Arachno-Humanoid Polymultiverse.
It's not just that there seems to be a Spider-Man in nearly every universe. The leader of the society, Miguel O'Hara, describes all of existence and the universal tether that interconnects all the hero spiders across every dimension in the multiverse. Lines that draw up each spider story with a point of center called the canon. The canon is a fundamental and underlying event that will happen to every person who acquires the powers of Spider-Man, every time to all of them. In saying this cosmic system means these events will happen to every Spider-Man in some capacity, and is so fixed that apparently any intervention in which the event fails, the very fabric of existence decays. So far on this list is getting bitten by a radioactive spider, the loss of the people closest to Spider-Man, sharing a kiss with the one you love, and apparently Venom is also a canon event, and there are even more than that. So by this point, Miguel and the Spider Society were so advanced that they had interdimensional travel on hand.
Can you go to any dimension you want with that watch thing?
It's much cooler than a watch.
Okay.
Had found a way to prevent the glitching that occurs when you travel to other dimensions that are not your own. And the biggest one being technology that can actually track and predict canon events that haven't happened yet.
Gwen, heads up. Markers are predicting an incoming cannon event, so tread carefully.
I'm on it.
Now, Miles did break the canon in Pavitra's universe in the scene just before.
Inspector Singh's death was a canon event. You weren't supposed to be there, and you weren't supposed to save him. That's why Gwen tried to stop you.
He helped save Pavitra's girlfriend's dad. If he wasn't there, he would have died on that bridge. But because he was there, the universe started to decay.
Because you changed the story, Pavitra's dimension is unraveling. If we're lucky, we can stop it.
To my understanding, the reason behind the canon events is that it sort of binds the very idea of Spider-Man through space-time, and I guess, in a sense, gives them their powers. And if they are broken, that very tether, along with the fabric of the multiverse, can go with it. Miguel knows this more than anyone, because he claims he broke these very rules. And I think in this scene, I can see Miguel's eyes and the fear he has, so I don't think he's lying, and I must assume he really did witness the disintegration of an entire dimension. Now, is this kind of hauntingly beautiful? Yeah, to think that all versions of yourself must suffer in the exact same way to accomplish your greatest deeds. But then why does this ruin Spider-Man? Why does this utterly destroy everything that made Spider-Man special in the first place? Well, I'm being dramatic. This won't stop me from watching Spider-Man movies, but I have unsettled reservations about what this actually means. And after I explain, you might agree. Well, let's take a look at Gwen's death again from The Amazing Spider-Man 2. This was a canon event.
In every other universe, Gwen Stacy falls for Spider-Man. And in every other universe, it doesn't end well.
Meaning now, we know that this was always going to happen. She was always going to fall, and Peter was always going to run out of time. Well, what does this really mean? Is that Peter could have done this, or this.
Shut the thing. Sorry, I love you. Don't hate me. Peter!
Or this. And the outcome would have been the same. In fact, there was nothing that Peter could have done here. He could have done literally anything else. He could have gone to the closest liquor shop, the closest airport. He could have just sat and played on his phone.
Oh no, finish your tweet. It's not. That's fine. Just give us a second.
It wouldn't have changed anything. And so everything that made me cry in this scene has been hollowed out. There are no stakes here. What I mean by that is I was sad when I first watched this because I thought he was close to saving her, but really he was a universe away. Same with his effort. The intense fear, the panic in his movements that has no consequence. He could have literally watched her fall and it would have been the same. Isn't that kind of insulting? It's almost like there's no story. What's the point of any of this? Why does a hero's actions matter if the consequences are all the same? And because of the canon, this is now the same for all these scenes. All these scenes that gave Spider-Man that raw human touch is gone. They have reduced these characters' experiences of grief to experiencing Wednesday.
And then I looked at my uncle and...
let me guess. He died?
It's like it's just another canon event. It's just another day on the job.
Being Spider-Man is a sacrifice. That's the job. That's what you signed up for.
As I mentioned before, Miguel has found a way to predict canon events, so these previous moments of pain and suffering have gone from individual experiences to numbers on a spreadsheet. The story goes from one person crying over his or her failure to all of them crying over nothing.
Just keep going.
Uncle Aaron.
Like everything that made Spider-Man's humanity has been reduced to analytics.
That's what the model says.
Do you see how this removes all the pain, all the joy, and all the stars in Spider-Man's story? You know why Tony's sacrifice was so impactful in the final battle of Endgame? Was that not only were the odds 14 million to 1, meaning what they accomplished together was because each of them did everything right and still just made it through. But he was the one who made the choice to sacrifice himself. No one did that for him. Now, imagine for a second if just before the battle, Doctor Strange sent out a group text from the Intergalactic Tony Stark Society saying Tony's sacrifice would defeat Thanos and the whole thing was a canon event. I don't know about you, but I'm imagining a skit where some of the other heroes either exhale in relief because they know they have to put in less effort in the battle, or quietly go make themselves a coffee because they know the job will be done regardless of what they do. God damn it. The canon events also change the concept of free will. Just how much of Spider-Man's actions are his own? Let's go back to the very first one, Uncle Ben. Well, that was a canon event.
If not for Uncle Ben, most of us wouldn't be here, Miles.
But what about the events leading up to it? Was Peter letting go of the criminal accomplice who was at the scene a canon event? Was winning the wrestling match before that happened a canon event? Because if it isn't, then how do we explain everything playing out exactly as it did, so Uncle Ben died exactly how he died? In fact, if the canon event was Flint Marko shooting Ben Parker, then what does that say about Flint Marko's whole life before that moment? Because wouldn't his whole life have to be a series of choices that all accumulated to this moment?
But I had no choice.
We always have a choice. You had a choice when you killed my uncle.
Did he though? Now, I admit I'm not a Spider-Man genius, but unless a comic book nerd tells me otherwise, I don't actually know. I don't actually know how to explain their supposed free will. To me, it just feels like they don't have any anymore. Like in this scene, I saw in a frame that Peter Parker's wedding is apparently a canon event. What does that say about their love? That it's based on a lie? It's the universe just shuffling books around? There is a difference between a character's origin playing out in a certain way in each universe and having absolutely no choice or meaning behind it. And I much preferred it before I knew, where Peter losing Uncle Ben and the like was their origin story, not the universe's oppressive 3D printer. And so ultimately, it seems to me like the canon events have squandered Spider-Man's free will, the pain he feels when he loses someone, and the point of doing anything to save people he loves. Because again, why even go to such effort if there's literally no point?
Got any more nuts?
I have some nuts. I could make some.
Go make me some.
Peter?
No, of course not.
Ah, but here's the kicker. Okay, so the previous Spider-Man didn't know, so fair enough. So why would they give up on saving their loved ones because they think they can change the outcome? But the new ones do, and they already have. Alrighty, so it might seem at this point that you either don't understand a single thing I've said, don't want to agree because it ruins your favorite superhero, or you do agree and are sad because this does indeed take away something from Spider-Man. In all cases, I'm very sorry. Okay, I'm very sorry. I'm right there with you. I am sad. I don't want to overanalyze media and ruin it for myself and others by debating spider-centric movie lore. I've been going to media comprehension addiction meetings. I'm making good recovery. I'm sorry. But if you're still with me till now, just know there is a light at the end of the tunnel. If you saw the title, you might have noticed I said canon events, what made Spider-Man special is gone for now, meaning I don't think they're going to stay, especially not by the end of the next film. I have a couple of reasons for this. On top of the system ruining Spider-Man for our sake, as I have discussed, it also sucks for the characters themselves. So it seems to me that the whole point of the canon events is that nobody likes them, and I don't think that's a coincidence. So maybe I'm right in thinking it does ruin a lot of things, and us knowing about it only now is on purpose.
That happened to you?
And me.
Hey, what of it?
So how does it ruin things for the characters as well? Now that Miguel has explained canon events to Miles in this scene, he realizes his dad's death will be a canon event.
When does it happen?
Miles and Miguel bump heads over opposing ethical denominations. Miguel is clear that he won't help Miles get back should he succeed in saving his father and disintegrate his whole world.
Send me home.
I can't do that.
And he has it on good authority that canon events are dangerous, so it's not like he would change his mind. To him, the morality of an action is judged based on minimizing the harm that actions have for the greatest number of people, which is why of course he's willing to let one man die for the sake of the multiverse.
You have a choice between saving one person and saving an entire world, every world.
And everyone else there agrees with him. They try and convince him that this is just how it is now, this is the way, and we just better get on with it.
We know it's hard, but it's the truth, Miles.
Is that why you're here? To let me down easy?
Since Miles is new to the Spider Society, maybe the gravity of the canon events hasn't sunk in. Miles even vents about how messed up the canon event system even is, that it almost sounds ridiculous.
So we're just supposed to let people die because some algorithm says that that's supposed to happen? You realize how messed up that sounds, right?
Why do these people have to lose so much? Who decided that? Why do they get no choice in the matter? Now, I think the canon is real, so I'm not doubting that, and it's also not Miguel's fault they exist if they do. But I can't help but notice that there is a lingering sadness in all the other spider people in this movie, more than usual. They are more docile and empty, almost as if these spider people have lost faith in what they do because they know no matter what they do, they will lose someone, and they probably want to forget that. Even Spider-Gwen seems so content with the fact that her dad is captain and will soon die.
What about your dad? He's a captain, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. You just aren't gonna do anything about it.
But that's not what Spider-Man is, and that's not what Spider-Man does. He doesn't let it play out. He saves both or dies trying, because it seems like everyone else in that room has already given up. Almost like Miles is more Spider-Man than all of them.
Miles, please understand.
You can't ask me not to save my father.
I'm not asking.
All stations, drop what you're doing and stop Spider-Man. Miles Morales, he's entering Sector 4.
Do I, have web on my face? What's the deal?
Miles, he's right there. He's right. Turn around.
I don't see anything, boss.
Just as the chase sequence is ending, Miles is done with it all. He is done with Miguel, the canon, and everyone telling him what's going to happen.
Everyone keeps telling me how my story is supposed to go. Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing.
And so, because it seems like they have set up Miles to be the one to change the fate of the Spider-Verse, by the end of the next film, I think he will find a way to break the canon, not just for him, but for all of them. He will restore the joy in the spiders. They will still lose people and they will still struggle, but it will be up to them to make those choices, not the universe. They will gain back the power to rise and fall, not by the authority of something else, only by the choices they make.
Taking shots at the enemy. I'm gonna make it to the top, leave a legacy. If I got something to say, you better let me speak. Turn it up a new degree, bitch, you ain't seen